Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever. Yeah, check it out. Okay, so this is going to be part 2 of In a Good Way podcast episode 6, right? And so it cut off. I guess for the next one, I'll just purchase the upgrade or however. So if you tuned into the last part 1, we're talking about the Akashic records. And so my question, I mean, to continue with what we were speaking about is, so you feel that pretty much all the downloads we get, is that where they come from, or?
It's universal field, right? It's going to be like we're tuned into, I think they call it the morphogenetic field. I'm not sure, like there's the physics is starting to catch up with this, right? So there's, there's actual, the scientists are starting to see actual evidence of, we have energetic fields that we're a part of. And when certain parts of our brains get awakened, we can start really tuning into that and retrieving information energetically through the field, and it's called the Akash, right? Or the ether. But yeah.
And have you physically seen it? Because there's been twice that I could remember that I went, in this dream to this, and sometimes I don't like calling them dreams because I feel like it's my higher self traveling. Like that's, my real body. I always try to explain that, like, I guess this would be our vehicle while we're here on Earth.
Yeah.
And when we go to sleep, our real body goes and does what it needs to do.
Exactly.
Okay. So you feel the same way about like that?
You ever wake up and it's like, I feel like I've fought a battle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're sound asleep all night. Yeah, we do things at night.
Yeah, and I feel like I could share this with you and you won't look at me crazy, but like I've even like there was for a few years in a row, I guess I was visiting with like what we call star people, right?
Yeah.
The higher beings.
Yeah.
And in one of these visions, that's how I felt. I knew it was a real experience because I woke up drained, like if I was, like someone that was hungover kind of thing. Like I was just like out of it. And I knew, and then I got confirmation that this was a real experience. Like it translated into the physical. There were little signs that, oh wow, like this really just happened, and I felt really connected to them. Like it took me a couple months. I felt like I wanted to be with them. Like that was home. I felt homesick. I felt heartbroken. Like I wanted to go with them. Like it was crazy. And I don't even understand that. Why 100% that? Like I was like, why did they feel like home? Is that where we all come from, or that's where I came from, or what exactly? Because just that. And then I had to remind myself, well, I'm still here on Earth doing earthly things, so I gotta shake that energy because it was that strong. Like I really wanted to be with them. So
yeah, soul connection, right? Or it could be a soul ancestral connection or a soul family connection, right? That's we are connected and related on so many ways with so many, and on planes that we're not consciously aware of, but things start to open up and you start to remember. And I think that's interesting that you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm here on Earth because seriously, we're here on Earth and we're embodied, and this is not arbitrary. It's not arbitrary. We're here for a reason. Nature doesn't do anything that's arbitrary, and we forget that we're part of nature. And it's I'm seeing this. You can see this in spiritual people. There's this. I was telling the story just to some of my people just a couple of days ago. I don't follow a huge number of people on YouTube, but there were a couple of kind of guru types that I've been sort of keeping an eye on a little bit. And this is about a month ago. Two of them uploaded a video on the same day, right?
Oh,
And one of them is this guy who is extremely well versed in all sorts of kind of philosophical, theosophical, theological um, theology, Hindu, Christian, whatever. He understands all the symbolism. He's extremely just astute.
mm,
And then the other is a traditional Indian guru, right? But he's also a musician.
oh,
And it was just really interesting the difference between these two, because the one he's been starting to talk about nuclear annihilation.
oh, wow.
And it's like it's taken me a while to realize, like, he just uploaded one that where he flat out said we're going to be annihilated. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Mhm.
um and it's like, even though he does have a very high vibration and stuff, but he's embraced this narrative, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, this is really interesting. So he was all this kind of like, and he's not doom and gloom about it, really. He's sort of like, his thing is like, we're gonna, it's just, you need to just sort of transcend it and go beyond and let it do what it's going to do, and this kind of thing. So I can kind of see where he's coming from. But then the other guru, on the same day that he uploaded this, the other one uploaded that, was he had this video that he uploaded that was a live stream of himself and a whole bunch of musicians just jamming.
Wow.
And I put that thing on, and I was in the kitchen doing dishes, and I was dancing, and it was like, whoa. Right. And so it's, I can't remember what the train of thought was with this, but it's like, I think we're at this juncture here where humanity has a choice, and each of us as an individual has a choice. And things unfold, things manifest through story. So we're talking about the Akash, right? And we're here embodied, right? But we're here as creator beings. We are the vessels through which the creator creates. And humanity, humans especially, because we do it through the mind. Creation starts with the mind. Remember, the first law, the first principle is the principle of all mind. And so humans have gotten to this point of evolution where we can consciously use our minds, but we have to train it, right? Because we've got all these animal instincts. And that's where the ego comes in. It's like the ego is this intermediary, right? It's a middle manager. And so the ego is this gatekeeper. It has to make the conscious choice, right? Because the negative things want to, they're gatekeepers, right?
Mhm.
The ego is our personal gatekeeper, and it's just a matter of overriding it. So we have our higher ego too, which is our higher consciousness, and we have to work and recognize that we need to consciously choose to align with that. And so it can get, like, just watching these two gurus, it's really, really interesting. And no judgment, because I don't know what this man's soul mission is. Like,
Mm.
I think that cancel if I'm wrong, okay? Because I don't want to invite this in, but I think it's possible we could be seeing a lot of souls leaving the planet in the next few years. And if that is the case, his soul mission may be to assist some of these higher vibrational souls who have chosen that path, or whose journey is going to take them off the planet.
Mhm.
He may just be assisting those, but I think you can start listening to people like this, and they've chosen, there's two narratives right now, right? The one is the annihilation story, which leads to Armageddon. It's the Armageddon story, right? And the other is the resurrection story that leads to Eden, okay? And each of us right now needs to choose, and we need to be conscious of this, very conscious of this, because the two stories lead in two different directions, and they are both happening at once. And so it's through story that we get from mind into reality, right? If you have a vision in your mind of what you want. You want to make dinner, right? And you want this beautiful dinner. And then as the mind kind of like your emotions have to reach this point where it's like, oh yeah, I really want that, the desire. And from there, it's sort of like the story unfolds. You walk to the fridge, you get out the butter and the eggs and the vegetables or whatever it is that you're doing. And then the story unfolds. You walk over and you chop them up and whatever, but it's like your mind has to direct you in these ways, and it's an unfolding of a story. So stories are powerful. Stories are immensely powerful. They give us the roadmap, the pattern. That's why myth is so powerful, because it's story and it shows us how to live. That's why the traditional cultures, storytelling is such an important part of what they are, because it's through stories that they pattern how to live. And so there's these two narratives going on right now, and we need to be aware that they are narratives, right? And one narrative says we're going to blow up the world, and the other narrative says we're recreating Eden. And which one do you want to follow? And you have to be very conscious of who is telling which narrative. If we listen to mainstream media, usually it's going to be the Armageddon narrative. But there are many other people who are telling the story of Eden right now and resurrection. So we need to be very cognizant of, as we listen to people, what story are they telling? And this is where it can get confusing sometimes, because if you get somebody who is apparently, very knowledgeable and very wise and actually maybe is vibing very high, this person has a high vibration, but he's telling the Armageddon narrative. I unsubscribed personally, because that's not my story. That's not the story I want to tell. I've got Eden right here in my third eye.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like you have to be aware of these things, because it would be really easy. And you also have to be aware of each one of us as individuals has our own inner guru. And it doesn't matter how accomplished that a guru is or how wise he seems to be. We need to trust our own inner guru and feel into that. And if I don't care who it is, you know, if it's the Pope or the president or whatever, I'm not getting political here, but whoever you've been following for 10 years and think they're the best, spiritual leader in the world. And if you start hearing things that don't jibe with the narrative that you want to choose, because we're choosing this, right? Um, and the outcome will be what, the cumulative results of our individual choices. That's why, you as an individual are just as powerful as anybody else on the planet. And the more that we, ultimately it's going to come out the way it comes out, and it may be both these narratives happening. Like we may see Armageddon happening on Earth at the same time that we are building Eden. It doesn't mean it has to be all one or the other, right? And if it is Armageddon happening in certain places and certain times on the earth, it's only because there's the law of rhythm, right? One has to come down to rock bottom and then one springs back up. So it's only to open up to coming back up. Yeah.
No, no, thank you. That's I didn't want to interrupt you at all. That actually, I was thinking even as you were saying that about like the dream I had, how I was walking with this group, and it was a mixture of different people, like
Yeah.
pretty much all ethnicities, all like
Yes.
everyone, and we were walking down this middle path, but it
Yeah.
looked like a paradise. And it's funny because see, that's what I would choose. And like I told you, I felt like the person I seen in that vision, it was you as well. And it's you're kind of on that same path. Like that's what you would choose. So
Yeah.
to these people that so do you feel they're put here just like to me, like how you said, it's all free will. So why do they choose this destruction? Because that, right? They influence through the media, they say destruction,
Right.
destruction, and everyone puts it in their head. So like you said, I don't know, you said something earlier that was amazing to me that I think is like how oh, it's through us, like the creator creates, right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
We want to separate ourselves from the creator. We want to put, God out there somewhere, or Christ so out there somewhere. It's like, no, this is just my personal download, but we are that which the spirit flows through, and that which enables the spirit to act and to create.
And see, but that's the thing, right? We all have free will. So to me, it's just, I think, like, are they really, can they not see, like, is that they want to choose the destruction, or
Yeah.
is that why they're here? Is that their soul mission too? And we have to resist that? Is that part of our test to resist this? And we
Yeah.
just haven't seen that it's really all a big test and
It's
we have to resist it, or like, that's kind of, see, my brain will go and every,
yeah.
like, trying to figure it out, like, why is it all just a big test, or is that their whole soul mission to do that, or they're just not aware and so they're being misguided, someone's leading them.
Yeah, it maybe yes, yes, and yes, right? Yes, yes, and yes, right? Yeah, I mean, we are as as humanity, we are a part of the consciousness of Gaia, of the earth, right? And the earth is having this awakening process right now, right? Like, as you individually were talking about earlier about everything kind of opening up for you, right? And it was, you said it was through your brother's death, right? That,
Yeah, everything, I think, and not like, I don't want to make it all emotional, but I felt like that, like, see, I had a really hard time with it, and so that's when I guess the star people had to show me.
yeah,
I don't know if I would have gone to the point of taking my own life, but I had a really
yeah,
hard time with it, right?
yeah, God,
And and oh, well, something happened actually, because, well, I'll just say, like, my brother was a suicide, right?
oh, I'm sorry.
So
Yeah.
within like a month or something after that, I got like a message. Something jumped out at me. I think I was on Facebook and someone jumped out at me and they told me to contact this person.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this person never reached out to me and said my condolences, nothing. I was like, I'm not gonna reach out to this person. And they're like, if you don't do it, you'll regret it or whatever.
Mm.
So I was like, fine. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I guess, they were going through something. So I went to visit them. And I guess they were probably on the verge of suicide themselves. So they look at me and they tell me like, oh, I feel God or an angel sent you here. And I like nodded. I was like, but I looked away and I look up and I'm like, oh, and like I was like, oh, no way. So you guys let me help somebody else, but you didn't let me help my own brother. Like,
Mm.
no way. I was like, like if I could go tear the heavens apart, like I was like, no way, you guys just. But then, so then they came to visit me like instantly. It was like they had to show me that somehow, some way, it was already written like that, which I don't like to share because I don't want people to think that there isn't free will. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know why that happened for me, why that was some kind of contract, maybe like between,
very likely.
and it was meant to. Was it something that was meant we scheduled to happen at this time for me to even wake up more?
Yeah.
Then because I've always been kind of connected, but I run away from it. I believe I'm the one that sometimes it's gotten too intense over the course of my life, and I've shut down from it.
Yeah.
And when that happened, that was like the worst thing that's ever happened in my life, right? And especially that, thinking, okay, you guys allow me to help other people, but you didn't let me help my own family. That didn't, like,
Yeah.
that would have made it, like, I think anyone really want to lose faith altogether, like, screw, like, I'm not doing nothing spiritual no more, like, forget everything, like, that's it, and but instead, I guess it was that, like, I think that goes to show love is like the most powerful thing, because nothing could have kept me from going to visit my brother. So during that time, it was like I was traveling to where he was at,
Yeah.
in the spirit world, everything. It was like everything, going through portals, do this, that, everything. Like, everything was, there was no walls anymore for me, like, during that time.
Right.
And it lasted probably like, I don't know, maybe like a good 2 years. And I feel like now I've disconnected again because I had to get back to the
Yeah.
grind of everyday work. And
Yeah.
like you said, like, I would love nothing more than to just make a living off the spiritual so I could focus on it and
Yeah.
really, but so this last year has been just work, back to the, and so
Yeah.
I've kind of disconnected over the last past year, which I wasn't too I'm not too thrilled about having. This is like, I'm trying to get back to
I understand completely because I've kind of at that point too, I'm being asked to function in the real world. I've actually put the spiritual work kind of on the back burner for a little bit. It's guided to do this because I need to build up some things in my mundane world business, and I'm actually being guided to really work with a particular industry that is very aligned with me, but very real world.
Mhm.
um, which I've been fighting.
Oh.
And it's funny that you bring this up, but you know, we're at this point where I think we as light workers are going to be asked to function in the real world and to start bringing our gifts. And it may not be out there, right? It may be sort of like a behind the scenes using our gifts. So it doesn't mean you have to put out your shingle as a shaman or a healer. And maybe for some people it is, you know, having the courage to actually go there and do that. And for others, it may be, okay, I'm going to bring my presence, which is ultimately what our gifts, you know, are all about, building our presence. I'm going to bring my presence to this place, this industry, this job, this relationship, this whatever it is that we're guided to be there. And through my presence here and doing whatever work, you know, that I'm being asked to do, whether it's being a cashier or a, an accountant or whatever it is, um, through that work and my presence here, it's going to affect things. And also the awareness of the choices we make. There's going to be times I feel in the next few years where the word no is going to be very important.
Mm.
It already is, you know, um, and one has to be constantly feeling into, is this aligned? Is this aligned? And, you know, we may be asked to do things that aren't aligned. And if we are, the more we are aware of ourselves and our own truth and our own alignment and how we relate to the physical, mundane, real world, that will enable us to say yes or no clearly in ways that are aligned with truth, aligned with natural law, aligned with our own ethics and values. And, you know, the more we recognize that each of us has immense power, that we do have free will, and that each one of us, while we have different levels of influence in the world, you know, a janitor and a CEO have are worlds apart in influence in terms of the mundane world. They are equal or potentially equal in the spiritual world. So you can have somebody who's pushing a broom who actually has more energetic influence over a company than the owner.
Wow, I like that. Wow, that
And
gave me
when
chills.
that person stands in their power and they stand in their truth, you know, and it may take saying, no, I'm out of here, right? I cannot ethically do what you're asking me to do. But if every single person on the planet who was awakened, or even who wasn't, right? Because I think you can be aligned without being quote unquote awakened. I see it all the time. Um, if every person on the planet did that and really stood to their ethics and what they believed, I think we'd see a sea change in the way the world works, because I think the bulk of humanity, I have to believe this because I'm on that path, right?
Mhm.
And without the belief, you can't be on that path. But I believe in my heart of hearts that the majority, even if it's only 51% of humanity, wants that Eden
Mm.
more than they want Armageddon, right?
I would
And
hope so.
the thing is that that story, that choice of stories, that is the one thing that is the true division of humanity. It's not who you voted for. It's not your religious beliefs. It's not whether you're quote unquote awakened or not. It's not your gender, it's not your whether or not you vax, it's none of that. It's, are you really desiring and believing that, the Eden is possible? And, or is it that you've given up hope?
And I believe it was that at one point. So I feel like, it reminds me of like there was this book I read. I don't know if you ever heard of the author Vine Deloria Jr. Vine Deloria Jr.
Oh,
Um, he was a native man. I think from Washington. I'm not sure. Washington, the state. And he wrote the story of like even when I guess people started colonizing that area, and there was this old native man that he was. They said I think he was over 100 years old, but they took him to court to prove it because I don't know what they were trying to make him do, and they were trying to convince him of, oh, dude, you have to join the religion and everything, and that's how you're gonna get to heaven. And they described heaven to him, and he just said, "That's my backyard." Like, what are you guys
there you
talking
go.
about?
There you
Yeah,
go. It's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's exactly like, see, at that time, he had everything, I guess a river behind this, everything, the whole nature that he lived in. And now it was something that came and said, no, this is the real way, you
It
see?
is. It
So I
is.
think we some like, yeah, there's probably a yearning inside all of us. We know what the I don't want to call it the right way, but in a way, we know what was in balance with nature. We do
Exactly.
somehow.
We know
And
it. And exactly my backyard. I mean, this one of the things I'm being called to do in the world is to promote and work with food forests and
mm,
permaculture installations and turning lawns into Eden, basically. Um, and it's a whole movement that's starting. And literally, it starts with the backyard.
yeah.
We can create and rebuild and recreate Eden. We've had it. It's been on this planet. It's like it's not a myth. This planet is Eden, right? And we've
Mhm.
just put layers. Been really working hard to chop it down for millennia, but uh, nature has this incredible life force and will to live, right? And as soon as we start aligning with that, and it can start as easily as planting a few trees in your backyard, right? Some food plants or whatever it is. Each one of us can do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's another way, of course, not to make it like, oh, that's where it's heading, but it almost feels like that, right? Like even with the food shortages and all that, it's another way to put fear into people that, oh, you want us to take care of you and provide food for you, but we
Oh,
have the
exactly.
ability to do it ourselves. Like we could.
Right, exactly. And that's where I think sometimes the 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 energy of the negative energy, it pushes us to go beyond where we're at, right? And so this whole food shortage thing, what it's doing is it's inspiring people to want to turn their backyards into food forests. And it's like, if you really look at all the negative forces out there,
Mhm,
first of all, they're gatekeepers, right? Are you really serious about it?
mhm.
And second, they are catalysts. They catalyze us into action. And it's how we respond to that, right? Are we going to respond by fighting it, which never works? Are we going to respond by, giving up and I'm going to be transcendent and just let it all, whatever? Or are we going to, just say, hey, that's not true.
Mm.
But thank you, because you're showing me the opposite, and I'm going to go in the other direction of what you are telling me, and I'm going to take, believe and create the other story.
A- and it's funny that like how we're talking about this because see, even when I was younger, I would have dreams of the chaos, right? Like conflict,
Yeah.
kind of war. and I haven't had those dreams in a long time. Wow, running out of time again. This thing. All right. Well, and I haven't had those dreams anymore. And like how I just told you, even that dream about us kind of in this new Eden, I guess, if you want to call it, or this new world. And so I guess even within me, it almost feels like it was a choice. Like some kind of, like maybe my consciousness before was about, like I got sucked into the, yeah, it has to be war, and that's the only way we can do it, fighting and this and that. Which I don't know if it will be true or not, but just even seeing that my dreams have changed to where now it's just walking in kind of this bliss, like everything's green and beautiful. And so maybe I guess it is that we all have that choice
Yeah,
to change the way we think as well, you know?
that's what it is. It's like we need to be making that conscious choice. It exercise our free will, and it's through really owning our free will.
Mm.
That's when we align with the Christ within, and the Christ being this God essence within us. And that will, that enables us to create. We're creating regardless.
Mhm.
We are creator beings, so that's what we're here for. I mean, if you look at all of creation, all of nature, that is our superpower. We are such creative beings. If you look at all humanity has done without placing any judgment on it, just the sheer immensity of our creative power is mind-blowing. What we're able to accomplish, and it's just taking through our free will, we can choose, and it comes down, we are so powerful that we can destroy the planet if we choose
Mhm.
that, and we're also so powerful we can create absolute heaven and Eden if we choose that. And it's owning that power and not being afraid of it.
Oh, thank you. No,
Being
that's,
respectful of it, but not
yeah.
afraid of it, because when we're afraid, that's the downward narrative.
And that's a good word. Like because I think a lot of times that's what it is, a fear. It's like when you share your spiritual gifts, right? And
Yeah.
before I didn't want to call them that because I thought everyone has it. It's just maybe people haven't opened up to it, right?
Well,
Because
yeah.
yeah, because it seems like all that, like especially that when you get into being around traditional people, it was normal. All
It
that,
is normal.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything, like
Yeah.
all the old, like tribes and not just here but around the world, right? Like it was
Yeah.
normal that we walk between both worlds, like the spirit
Yes.
world and you know
Yeah.
like simultaneously. It's like even the Aboriginal people in Australia, like they're
Oh,
very
amazing.
aware of that.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, I would love to go spend time with them. The first time I heard them speaking about the dream time and all that, that just like I was like, oh wow, like this is, I would feel, you know, great being around that. Oh, let me see. I lost my, what was I was going somewhere with that. I completely forgot. um, what was that? Oh yeah, just about being okay. So that I feel like people are afraid of it. So when I would try to share about the spiritual, I notice people are afraid of it, and the fear, they give you that negative reaction, like, almost like that. If you were to share something spiritual, they'll be like, oh, that's of the devil, right? That's the devil, that's this, that's that.
Right.
And so how do you think that correlates to like the physical world? What are they so afraid of that they want to destroy, like the earth? I don't get it. Like, what is it that
Well, they say the devil's tricky, right?
hmm,
So the law of polarity is another one of the universal spiritual laws, and it says that everything has poles of existence, right? Hot or cold, light or dark, but it's all a measure of something, right? So hot and cold are opposites, but they are really just different ends of the same spectrum. Well, same with um, I guess you can call it good or evil
mhm,
if you want to place those labels on it. I really think of it as the life force energy, and it can spin in a positive direction
mm,
to where it's heading towards Eden, right? Or, universal life, or it can spin in a negative direction, which is heading towards Armageddon or hell, or whatever you want to call it, right?
mm,
Heaven and hell. That spectrum, it's a spectrum, right? So there, it's just a matter of how you choose to spend that energy.
Mm.
And if you don't recognize that you are empowered to make that choice and that it's just an energy that you're working with, then you start to, if you're putting it outside of yourself, then you see it as God and the angels, and you see it as the devil, and you're afraid of it because it's outside of yourself, it's outside of your control, and you think it's something that has power over you.
Mm.
It doesn't have power over you, but you have to recognize both in yourself. And that's the hard thing, because the ego doesn't want to do that. The ego doesn't want to look at the shadow.
Ah.
And if you aren't willing to face your shadow and to recognize the evil that is potential within you, and if you can't recognize that and assimilate that and love all aspects of yourself, even that, right, and just be accepting of that exists, or the potential for that exists, and through that you gain the respect for it, and through that you gain the fearlessness that, okay, this is part of what is, and part of, therefore part of who I am. It's there, and now I have the choice that I can redirect any energies that I'm sending that way, and redirect them and send them the other way.
Mm.
um, and that's the ultimate, power of transmutation that we have, that we gain when we really step into our power as free will beings. But one has to you have to come face to face with that devil.
Wow. No, thank you for saying that. You like the way you put it.
And put him, like Jesus said, get thee behind me.
Ah.
He didn't blast the devil to smithereens. You can't do that, because it's part of the natural order, the natural law. He
Ah.
said, get thee behind me. I'm in charge here.
Wow.
And when, or notice, get thee behind me, that means the devil's got his back. That means you're putting the negative force and making it your servant. You are, this is mastery. You become the master, and then the negative force, you can work with it, and it starts to support you. Because what it does is it shows you where you don't want to go, so that you can respond in a way that disempowers it, negates it, and brings you back up where you do want to go. It's a way shower.
That made perfect sense. Thank you. I had never thought of it like that. That was amazing. No, and it looks like we're gonna run out of
Run
time.
out of time again.
I hate being on a clock. I mean, I've never experienced that, I guess, but I'll upgrade. I would love to have you back. I could keep this going, but I don't want to keep you. Thank
All
you
right,
so
well,
much.
thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
No, the pleasure's been mine. I'll put your information, so anyone that wants to contact you in the link, in the description. I even wanted to I'll just message you outside of here I wanted to actually find out more about the past life.
Yeah.
So even if you could put me in contact with your friend that does it, if I'm not sure if you do it also, or is it more your friends?
Well, I do kind of a shamanic journey kind of thing that can, like, if you intend, could possibly do that. So, but I'm not a medium, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but the past life, she does it actually physically on the table, and she's amazing if you ever come to Marquette, Michigan.
Oh, okay. I would have to go to okay.
Yeah.
No, maybe in the future. So yeah, no, thank you so much. I know we were gonna talk about the spirit animals, and I was gonna ask you about the spirit animals and the painting. It went completely somewhere else.
Okay.
But I love where it went. I'm really just thank you for taking the time and everything you shared. Yeah, this was amazing. It was way more than I expected us to talk about. But that's how it goes sometimes, right?
That's how it goes. It just free flow. Whatever wants to come out will come out. So thank you so much.
So thank you so much. And yeah, I guess I have to end it because the time is running out.
I just want real quick, and you'll put my information below, but if anybody out there is feeling like the food forest thing or the planting, that is a physical, tangible thing we can do, foodforestabundance.com is a great place to start. It's a co-op movement of all over the world. that's really promoting this idea. So
Great. No,
my
thank
little pitch too.
you. No, great.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.